Wait, before you spread another bag of mulch this November, you need to hear this. What I'm about to share goes against everything you've been told about winter garden prep, but it's the exact method old-time farmers used to create self-sustaining gardens that practically ran themselves. 2 seeds. That's all it takes. And I promise, by spring, you'll barely recognize your plot. Hey there, garden friends. Welcome back to Earthly Gardening, where we grow more while spending less. If you're new here, I'm so glad you found us. This is your home for practical, wallet-friendly gardening wisdom that actually works. And to my returning viewers, thank you for being here. Your comments and garden updates genuinely make my day. Now, before we dive into these 2 game-changing seeds, do me a quick favor, smash that like button so more gardeners can discover this method. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming this season. Alright, let's get into this. So here's the thing about November. Everyone's rushing to put their gardens to bed, piling on mulch, clearing everything out, basically shutting down operations until spring. But what if I told you this is actually the perfect moment to plant something that'll do all your heavy lifting while you sleep? I'm talking about plants that fix your soil, crowd out weeds, and basically set up next season for you. Sounds too good to be true? Stick with me. Let's talk about what most people do wrong in November. They see bare soil and immediately think, I need to cover this up. So they buy bags of mulch, spread it thick, and call it a day. And sure, mulch has its place. It protects soil and suppresses some weeds. But here's what nobody mentions. It's a temporary fix that costs money every single year, and it does absolutely nothing to improve what's happening beneath the surface. Your soil is still compacted, still lacking nutrients. And come spring, you're starting from square one, working that hard ground, amending it, fighting the same weeds you battled last year. It's an exhausting cycle that keeps you dependent on buying products season after season. But what if your garden could actually improve itself over winter? What if you could plant something now that breaks up tough soil, adds nitrogen naturally, prevents erosion, and chokes out weeds before they even think about sprouting? That's exactly what these 2 seeds do, and they've been hiding in plain sight this whole time. Seed number 1, crimson clover. All right, let's reveal seed number 1. Crimson clover. Now, before you think, oh, I've heard of clover, let me explain why this particular variety is absolute magic for November planting. Crimson clover is what we call a cover crop, but it's so much more than just ground coverage. When you plant it in November, it establishes roots before the hard freezes hit. Those roots, and this is the beautiful part, they burrow deep into your soil, creating channels that break up compaction naturally. No tilling required. The roots do the work for you. But here's where it gets really exciting. Crimson clover is a legume, which means it has this incredible partnership with bacteria in the soil. These bacteria take nitrogen from the air and convert it into a form your plants can actually use. We're talking free fertilizer, folks. By spring, this clover will have pumped valuable nitrogen into your soil without you spending a dime. And the visual payoff? Come April or May, your garden will be covered in these stunning crimson-red blooms that pollinators absolutely go crazy for. Bees, butterflies, beneficial insects, they'll all flock to your space, setting up a healthy ecosystem before you even plant your main crops. Now here's the practical magic. When it's time to plant your spring vegetables, you simply cut the clover down and let it decompose right on the surface. It becomes instant mulch and green fertilizer, feeding your soil as it breaks down. Some gardeners call this chop and drop, and it's one of the oldest regenerative farming techniques out there. Crimson clover is ridiculously affordable. A pound of seed costs around $5 to $8 and covers roughly 2,000 square feet. Compare that to bags of mulch that barely cover a fraction of that space. Plus, you're not just covering your soil, you're actively healing it. Seed number 2, winter rye. Now, seed number 2 is where things get really interesting, winter rye. And no, I'm not talking about the grain you make bread from, though it is related. Winter rye is a cover crop superstar that thrives in cold weather and performs jobs in your garden that would cost you serious money if you had to do them manually. First off, winter rye has the most aggressive root system you'll ever encounter in a cover crop. We're talking roots that can grow 10 feet deep by spring. 10 feet. These roots are like nature's rototiller, punching through hardpan, breaking up clay, and creating pathways for water and air to penetrate deep into your soil structure. If you've ever struggled with water pooling in your garden or soil that drains too quickly, winter rye literally restructures your ground over a few months. And you're sleeping while it happens. But the weed suppression, oh, this is my favorite part. Winter rye grows thick and fast, even in chilly November weather. It creates such a dense mat that weed seeds can't get the light they need to germinate. And even better, as the rye grows, its roots release natural compounds that actually inhibit weed seed germination. Scientists call this allelopathy. I call it genius. So you're going into spring with soil that's loose, rich, and virtually weed-free. Imagine how much time and frustration that saves you during planting season when you'd normally be pulling weeds and fighting compacted beds. Winter rye is also incredibly affordable. A pound runs about $3 to $5 and covers around 1,000 square feet. You can find it at farm supply stores, online, or even some garden centers. And it's nearly impossible to kill. This stuff is resilient, which means even beginner gardeners will see success. When spring arrives, you cut it down before it goes to seed, and just like the clover, you let it decompose in place. That thick mat becomes mulch, weed barrier, and slow-release fertilizer all rolled into one. Quick pause if you're finding this valuable and you can already picture your garden transforming. Go ahead and drop a comment below telling me which seed you're most excited to try. Are you Team Crimson Clover or Team Winter Rye? Or maybe you're going all in with both. I read every single comment, and I love hearing what you're planning for your space. And hey, if you haven't liked this video yet, now's the perfect time. It helps more gardeners discover strategies like this one. Alright, let's get into the actual planting process because I want you to feel confident doing this, even if you've never planted a cover crop before. Step 1. Prep your soil lightly. You don't need perfect conditions. Just clear away any large debris, old plant stalks, or heavy weed growth. A quick rake over the surface is plenty. If your soil is super compacted, a light loosening with a garden fork helps. But honestly, these seeds are tough enough to handle less than ideal conditions. Step 2. Scatter your seeds. This is the easiest part. For crimson clover, you want about 1 ounce per 100 square feet. For winter rye, aim for 2 to 3 ounces per 100 square feet. Don't stress about perfect spacing. Nature doesn't work that way. Just broadcast the seeds evenly across your beds by hand. It's oddly satisfying, like you're a pioneer homesteader. Step 3. Rake lightly again to get the seeds in contact with the soil. You want maybe a 1/4 inch of soil covering them, nothing more. Some seeds will stay on the surface, and that's fine. They'll still germinate. Step 4. Water them in. Give your newly seeded beds a gentle watering to help those seeds settle and start the germination process. If rain is in the forecast within a day or two, you can skip this step and let nature handle it. And that's it. Seriously. No fancy equipment, no complicated timing. You plant, you walk away, and these seeds get to work. Timing-wise, early to mid-November is ideal in most regions. But even late November works if your ground hasn't frozen solid yet. These crops are cold-hardy and actually prefer cooler weather for establishment. So what's happening in your garden while you're inside drinking hot cocoa and avoiding the cold? Your crimson clover is quietly establishing a root system and beginning its nitrogen-fixing work. It might stay relatively low to the ground during the coldest months, but it's alive and active beneath the surface, improving soil structure and biology. Your winter rye, on the other hand, will surprise you. Even in freezing temperatures, it keeps growing slowly. By late winter, you'll see green shoots poking through, and by early spring, it'll be thick and lush, sometimes reaching knee height or more. Both crops are protecting your topsoil from erosion. When winter rains and winds come through, gardens with bare soil lose precious organic matter and nutrients. But your cover crops hold everything in place, acting like a living blanket. And all those beneficial soil microbes that die off in empty, exposed soil, they're thriving under your cover crops, building the healthy underground ecosystem that makes plants flourish come planting time. Now let's talk about the payoff, the moment when you realize this simple November planting changed everything. Come spring, usually around 4 to 6 weeks before you want to plant your main crops, you'll cut down your cover crops. Use a mower, a weed trimmer, hedge clippers, or even a sharp shovel if you're working a small space. Chop everything down to ground level. Then leave it right where it falls. I know this might feel weird if you're used to clearing everything away, but resist that urge. This cut material is gold. As it decomposes over the next few weeks, it releases nutrients back into the soil, feeds earthworms and microbes, and creates a weed-suppressing mulch layer. If you're in a hurry to plant, you can gently rake the cut material aside in rows, plant your seedlings or seeds in the cleared strips, and then tuck the green mulch back around your plants. This technique is called alley cropping, and it gives you the best of both worlds. Your soil underneath will be loose, dark, and crumbly, the kind of texture that makes planting a dream. You'll notice earthworm activity has increased. You'll see better water retention. And most importantly, you'll spend way less time fighting weeds because your cover crops already won that battle for you. Plants you put into this soil will establish faster and grow more vigorously because they're starting in an environment that's been primed for success. That's the transformation I'm talking about. Not just prettier plants, but a fundamentally healthier garden system that supports itself. Let's talk about money for a second because this is earthly gardening, and we care about keeping costs down. A typical bag of mulch costs around $4 to $6 and covers maybe 12 square feet at the recommended depth. To cover a modest 200 square foot garden, you're looking at somewhere around $70 to $100 depending on your area. And remember, mulch doesn't improve your soil, it just sits on top. Compare that to cover crop seeds. For that same 200 square foot space, you'd spend roughly $10 to $15 total on crimson clover and winter rye seeds. That's a fraction of the cost, and you're getting so much more value. But here's where it gets even better. Once you plant cover crops, they often reseed themselves if you let a few plants go to flower before cutting. That means next year you might not need to buy seeds at all. Your garden starts perpetuating its own fertility cycle. Over multiple seasons, the soil improvement compounds. Year 1, you'll notice a difference. Year 2, it's dramatic. By year 3, you've got the kind of soil that neighbors ask about because your plants are that much healthier and more productive. You're also saving money on fertilizers, compost, weed control, and water because your improved soil structure holds moisture better and feeds plants naturally. The return on investment is honestly unbeatable. I know some of you might be thinking, this sounds great, but will it work in my situation? Let me address a few common concerns. First, what if I have raised beds? Perfect. Cover crops work beautifully in raised beds. Actually, they might work even better because you have more control over your soil conditions. Just follow the same planting process. Second, will these crops take over my garden? Nope. Both crimson clover and winter rye are annuals, meaning they complete their life cycle in one season. When you cut them down in spring, they die back and won't regrow. You're in complete control. Third, I live in a really cold climate. Will these survive? Winter rye is incredibly cold-hardy and can handle temperatures well below freezing. Crimson clover is slightly less cold-tolerant but still does fine in most areas. If you're in a particularly harsh zone, winter rye alone will still give you fantastic results. Fourth, what if I want to plant garlic or other fall crops? No problem. Plant your fall crops first, then broadcast cover crop seeds in any empty spaces between rows or in beds you're not using. They'll coexist just fine. And finally, do I need to do this every year? Not necessarily. Once your soil is in great shape, you can rotate cover cropping with mulching or adjust based on what your garden needs. But most gardeners find the benefits so valuable that they make cover cropping a regular practice. So here's the bottom line. November doesn't have to be about shutting down your garden. It can be the beginning of something incredible. 2 seeds, crimson clover and winter rye, planted right now will quietly transform your soil, save you money, reduce your workload, and set you up for the most productive growing season you've had. This isn't a gimmick or some trendy hack. This is old wisdom that's been proven over generations of farmers and gardeners who understood that the best gardens are the ones that work with nature, not against it. If you take one action this November, let it be this. Skip the expensive mulch. Grab a couple pounds of cover crop seeds. Spend 20 minutes scattering them across your beds. Then step back and let nature do what it does best. I'm genuinely excited for you to try this and see the results for yourself. And please, come back and share your progress with us. Leave a comment in a few weeks telling me how your seeds are doing, and then again in spring when you're cutting them down. I want to celebrate your garden transformation with you. If this video opened your eyes to a better way of gardening, make sure you're subscribed to Earthly Gardening because we've got so much more budget-friendly, soil-building content coming your way. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss a thing. Give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and share it with a fellow gardener who needs to hear this message. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and keep it earthly.